Welcome back, everybody. Stoner Jesus Show. On the Zoom chat, we have Jim Higdon. Did I say that right, Jim Higdon? I was going to ask before.
That's right, Stoner Jesus. It's
Okay.
Jim Higdon.
I'm not really good with names, but I figure, you know what? Instead of asking before we record, just go ahead and ask him when we're recording.
Let's just wing it. Let's just do it.
Right. It's loose. No restrictions. We're just chilling, as the kids say. Try to reach my younger audience with outdated slang. It's kind of my thing.
I'm into it too. I enjoy outdated slang.
Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for taking the time to be on the show. For a little background for people watching and listening, we were trying to get together for an interview, I guess probably almost a year ago at this point. And then because we're pretty close geographically, I'm in Northern Kentucky and you're in Western Kentucky.
we're in Louisville.
Yeah. And we couldn't hook up when you came up here, and then COVID hit, obviously. But now we're here, a new year on Zoom, a new way of doing things.
Yeah, I feel like February of last year, I was in Cincinnati a lot, up and down 71. We have a few retailers in the area, and we were talking to health food stores and stuff. And regionally, we were spending a lot of time on the road. So I was in Cincinnati a lot. We were just trying to connect while I was up there. Yeah. And then everything got locked down. We're just down the road. We're just downriver from Cincinnati here in Louisville.
Yeah, obviously, Jim, one of the co-founders of Cornbread Hemp, cornbreadhemp.com, and the author of The Cornbread Mafia. We'll talk about all that coming up. First, Jim, I want to start with, at the beginning, as they say, how did your relationship with cannabis begin?
I turned 19 in Amsterdam.
Wow.
So that's how that started. I wrote this book about the Cornbread Mafia, growing up in a town in central Kentucky where marijuana was ubiquitous and everywhere. I started high school in 1990, and there was marijuana everywhere. So to be an awkward, uncomfortable teenager in that situation, to rebel against the status quo, I was not smoking weed instead of smoking weed in high school. Which, in retrospect was a giant waste of my time. But that's how it started for me. It was so present to me as an adolescent that I didn't take to it right away. But then I got away from home. I went to Centre College, got very fortunate to get a study abroad program much earlier than I probably should have. I started college young as well. I started college at 17. And so my second year of college, I was 18. I went abroad, and then I was in London and managed to go to Amsterdam for my 19th birthday from there, and then got lit up. Had a smoke, as it happens, like you smoke your first joint and nothing happens. So like, well, this was nothing. Smoked this good looking Amsterdam joint and nothing happened. And so the next logical step is I went straight to Space Cake, right? And then I was talking to the guy who worked there, and he says, let me get this straight. You've never smoked weed before, but you just ate a Space Cake? And I was like, yeah, what's the big deal? And he said, you're going to need this, and gave me a joint to smoke. He was like, and good luck. And then we were up, all night long in cartoon land. And then first thing in the morning, the Rijksmuseum, the National Gallery of the Netherlands opened, and we got to go in and see all the artwork before everyone else did, because we were there as soon as they opened.
Wow. Yeah. As far as, first time stories go, that's pretty epic. Yeah. I didn't start smoking until I was almost 18. And I was one of those kids who's like, oh no, I'm not smoking weed. My dad smoked weed. It's stupid. Stupid people do it. It makes people stupid, kills brain cells, lung cancer, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And now looking back on it, obviously, I just wasted so many years. I really could have used it.
In the same way. I would have been much cooler in high school had I got to this a little sooner. But everyone gets to it at their own pace, in their own way. And for me, it was my 19th birthday.
Cornbread Hemp, obviously, the Cornbread name, as you mentioned, comes from the book, which comes from the group, the rather infamous group. And obviously we could do like a 2-hour episode on all that. Just people who really don't know, can you give us a little bit of background on the Cornbread Mafia and your book?
Sure. So like I said, it's a story that comes out of central Kentucky. I'm from Lebanon, Kentucky, in Marion County. It's an hour south of Louisville, give or take, the geographic center of Kentucky, on the edge of what's considered the bluegrass region or the Knobs area in central Kentucky. And what happened was in the late 80s, between 85 and 89, 70 men from this one place in Kentucky were arrested on 30 farms in 10 states with what police said was 200 tons of marijuana. And having done the book research and done open records requests with the DEA and the FBI and gotten these task force documents back where these government investigators slowly realized, like it dawned on them, that there was this series of connected marijuana farms throughout the Midwest, and all of the people came from one place. And the FBI was keeping this running list that was like, an outline like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, like all of these instances of in this place, on this date in Illinois, 7 men arrested, all from Marion County, Kentucky, with 19,000 marijuana plants. And then the next one would be like, and then, in this place in Illinois, 8 men arrested from Kentucky with this amount, and so it really frightened federal law enforcement, because up until this moment, they assumed that all cannabis being consumed illegally in the United States was being smuggled in from Latin America, the Caribbean, and Asia. Yeah. And so suddenly they realized there was a massive domestic source of illegal marijuana and was all coming from this one place. And on top of that, these 70 guys that were arrested over time, right? Not all at once, like in these series of events, none of them would talk to investigators in exchange for a lesser sentence. Nobody cooperated. They had an O for record in the whole bit. And so they had these grand schemes of running RICO prosecutions, kingpin prosecutions under the continuous criminal enterprise statutes against who they thought were the ringleaders in this operation. But of the 70 that they had caught, none of them would be a witness. Wow. And so this frustrated federal law enforcement. And in the summer of 1989, they held a press conference at the federal courthouse in Louisville where they rolled out the prosecution case against all these men to the media without really giving anyone an opportunity to defend themselves. And in the course of this press conference, one of the prosecutors calls these guys the Cornbread Mafia, and it sticks with the press and with the wire services. And suddenly, like legitimately, the phrase Cornbread Mafia was in headlines and news stories across the country and around the world. I interviewed for the book a woman who's from my hometown, who at the time was working for an accountant at PricewaterhouseCoopers in Sydney, Australia. And she tells me the story. Everyone always teased her being from Kentucky, USA, in Sydney, Australia, but she goes to lunch one day and comes back, and her friends in the office have papered her desk area with newspaper cutouts from the Sydney Morning Herald about the Cornbread Mafia, and it's from her hometown, right? So this thing really just wrapped the world. It kind of captured the imagination that these country boys could do this thing, and it was called this very catchy name by the feds. And at the time, I'm in middle school, right? I'm in 7th, 8th grade, and parents of my classmates are getting arrested and going to prison. And it really didn't fit with what our understanding of what we were being told about drugs during the Reagan administration, DARE, Just Say No stuff, Miami Vice episodes where all the drug dealers were bad people. This didn't seem to fit that model. And it really stuck with me. And as I left to become a writer and wanted a story to write, I knew that there was this great story from where I was from that had never been told because no one would talk. And that was the nut. Like, could you crack this story that no one had ever talked about before? And so that was the challenge, but also the opportunity that I went home and tackled.
It's really an absolutely incredible story. So when do you start learning about CBD, and when does that come on your radar?
So because of the book was very successful, and I became a journalist in the cannabis space. I was writing for outlets like Politico and Thrillist, and covering the Washington Post in Kentucky when news broke here. So I was a working freelance journalist and covering for Politico cannabis policy, both in Congress and in the States. I reported for Politico in DC, in Florida, in Nevada, and Colorado. And I was covering in 2018 the Farm Bill passing that was going to legalize hemp and CBD outright after having been semi-legalized in pilot programs in the previous farm bill. And the story I was working on was that the Senate version of the bill had slid in a felon ban, a lifetime felon ban for anyone working in the hemp industry, and but only for drug crimes. And I was reporting on this hemp company in Western Kentucky whose CEO was a felon, but it was okay because he was a Medicare fraud felon and not a drug crime felon. And so he wouldn't be caught up in the lifetime felon ban, which seems as ludicrous as it sounds. And whether because of my reporting or not, that felon ban in the final draft was reduced to 10 years. And we hope, in time to get rid of that felon ban entirely. But in the course of reporting that story, I saw a hemp harvest come in. And at the time it was going for like $40 a pound. And I was in a room of 100 acres of it that had yielded 1,000 pounds an acre. So just knee deep in this, 100,000 square foot warehouse. But it seemed like, so there was this obvious, amazing opportunity, but at the same time, it seemed like even these big players who were getting involved had no idea what they were doing in terms of how to best accurately represent a Kentucky grown product in this space to the wider marketplace. Like Kentucky has this special place when it comes to cultivating cannabis. And if cannabinoid hemp is going to be a legal thing, here's my opportunity to take what I know, having researched and written this book of mine, and turn that into a brand that really reaches to the whole country by, speaking about Kentucky excellence in cannabis the right way.
Yeah. So what are your impressions of the CBD market as it stands and as it's going forward, as a person who's immersed in the space?
The CBD market right now is great, but it could be a lot better. There's a lot of great opportunity in the CBD marketplace. It's one of these businesses that when the COVID crisis hit, everyone had a gut check. Are you a company, an industry that's going to survive this thing, or are you a company in an industry that isn't? And CBD proved itself to be an industry that is capable of surviving a year-long global pandemic. We have a product that people respond to well when they were cooped up in their house, and we have a really great mail order system with our website, and we ship by UPS. Every order placed by 2:00 Eastern time ships same day by UPS, so people get that stuff fast. And we really won over a lot of customers who have been CBD customers of other brands after trying our product and experience our shipping speeds.
Yeah. So you've seen an uptick of people in general wanting to get into CBD. Obviously, it's been 7 or 8 years now when, it's been in the news with the CNN documentaries, the docuseries and whatnot. Have you seen an uptick with COVID, with just more people being interested in CBD?
We get customers it's really fascinating. We get customers at every education level all the time. So we're getting customers who are asking us about our terpene profiles and what strains we're using, and some minor cannabinoid specific sophisticated questions. And then the next chat that comes through the website is asking, like, will I test positive on a drug test? How long does it take to work? How much of this should I take? How long does it take to take effect? So like we get really sophisticated questions and really basic, simple introductory questions. We get them all the time at the same time. So it's hard to say, like, the marketplace is getting more sophisticated. People are constantly learning more, but we're always getting new customers who are coming into this in very introductory stages.
Yeah. So what's the future of cornbread look like, especially in a world where, with Democrats now having control of the Senate, maybe looking at federal legalization, the MORE Act actually getting through and getting signed? What's the future look like for you guys in that kind of world?
Well, first of all, let's reflect that the Democrats have taken the Senate or projected to take the Senate as of yesterday of us recording this. So the likelihood to even speculate as to what sort of future would hold in the current present tense was difficult to think about even yesterday, day before. So we're kind of in new uncharted territory. The likelihood of the MORE Acts passing and being signed by the president in a way that legalizes cannabis outright at the federal level is significant, but it still might not happen. Like, the Democrats have a narrow majority in the House. There's going to be Democrats who don't want to take this vote before they run for re-election. The Democrats have zero margin in the Senate, so they have the gavel in the committee chairmanships. But, is this going to be a priority in the get along with Mitch McConnell Senate? What I've been talking to people about in terms of federal legalization, so there's two things. One, we're going to try like hell these next 2 years to get that done. And if there's any leadership role that Cornbread Hemp can play in DC, lobbying the Kentucky delegation or other people on the Hill about the importance of legalizing cannabis at a national level, we'll definitely step into that role. But I imagine that we're going to spend 2 years trying and not get it done. There's going to be other priorities in the Congress, and there is narrow Democratic margins in both chambers. So what I think is the most likely outcome is the next farm bill is either in 22 or 23. It's like they start planning it in 22 and they'll pass it in 23. So they'll start in this Congress or this upcoming Congress, and then it will pass in the next Congress after the 22 elections. Right now, the cannabis prohibition hangs by a thread in the Farm Bill. The only thing that keeps cannabis illegal is the one line in the Farm Bill that says hemp is legal if it's under 0.3% Delta-9 THC. If you take out that THC threshold, then all cannabis is considered hemp and all hemp is legal. So the most likelihood of getting to federal legal cannabis is through the Farm Bill after 2 years of trying and not succeeding. And that's a bill that has to pass, that has to be signed, because it's a giant 1,000+ page bill that tells the U.S. Department of Agriculture how to do its job every so often, every 4 or 5 years. So if we get it passed in the committee stage and we get it attached in the Farm Bill, we've seen from the past 2 farm bills, this is how we got hemp legalized. This is how we can get cannabis legalized. So the MORE Act is a great vehicle right now to rally around, but the likelihood of it passing as a standalone bill, even in this Congress with Democratic majorities and a Democratic president, seem unlikely to me.
All right. So for local people watching, do you have any projections or thoughts on the possibility of medical marijuana passing in Kentucky this year?
So medical marijuana in Kentucky this year. Medical marijuana in Kentucky last year was all but done, passed the House with an overwhelming majority, and was in the Senate Judiciary Committee, had the votes in the Senate Judiciary Committee, and COVID shut the session down, and nothing got passed except the budget. So then in November, I think 13 yes votes got beat. If I'm speaking kind of not as a journalist, but as a secondhand receiver of information on this, a bunch of votes that voted yes in the last session got beat in November. So is there still 50 votes to pass it? Yes. Here's the rub in Frankfurt. It's an odd number year, which means it's not a budget year, which means any bill that raises revenue is technically out of order. In order to get it passed, you have to suspend the rules, which takes a 60-vote majority. So you don't need just 50 votes to pass medical marijuana in Frankfurt this year. You need 60. And do we have 60 votes to get it done? I don't know.
It's a shame. It's been, it's definitely, if anybody's followed Kentucky medical marijuana, the saga over the last several years, it's been a long, just chipping away year after year, going at it. And it's a shame, in 2021 that we're still talking about medical marijuana as opposed to, more progressive stuff.
Right. Well, the number of states who've legalized medical marijuana, it's now easier to keep track of the states that have not. Yeah. Right. We have 35 states with, including 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 border states, 5 of our 7 border states, or is it 6? Anyway, most of them, all but Tennessee, I think. Oh, Tennessee and Indiana. So 5 of the 7. In Illinois, you got full recreational. Virginia's headed that way to full recreational. And so it's really just a shame. We're one of 15 states without it. We're behind Utah. We're behind Arkansas. We're behind Louisiana. West Virginia has medical marijuana, for gosh sakes, and we can't get it done. It's really sad. But what's the dynamic now that's in play, and I think is very important, is that farmers have now got a taste of cannabis with the outdoor hemp crop, and farmers are ready to get involved in cannabis because they understand its economic potential for the farm. And if this is all about hippies and other, let's call them outside political groups instead of inside political groups in Frankfurt, and it's law enforcement against hippies and black folks, law enforcement in Frankfurt are going to win that argument every day. Yeah. Right. And that's just how Frankfurt's structured. Even now with law enforcement weakened by its various scandals in Kentucky. But law enforcement versus farmers, that's a whole different argument in Frankfurt. And all of a sudden it's hold the phone. Because if farmers come in and say, we want this to happen, legislators in Frankfurt start to listen to that. Yeah. So absolutely. The new ally for cannabis legalization in Kentucky is the farmer. And I suspect that should hold a lot of water with some of these rural legislators who might not listen to these sorts of arguments from other folks.
Hopefully. Speaking as someone in the cannabis industry and the cannabis space and someone who's written about these issues for many years and someone who lives in Kentucky, I'm definitely hoping so. Before we let you go, Jim, where can people find you online? Obviously, Cornbread Hemp is cornbreadhemp.com. Right. Where can people find you on social media and such?
I mean, I'm at Jim Higdon on Twitter. We're at Cornbread Hemp on Twitter and Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. We got a Pinterest. We got all that stuff. We got banned from TikTok, though. You can't put videos of waving fields of hemp on TikTok. Wow. You get banned for that stuff. So at Jim Higdon on Twitter, at Cornbread Hemp on Twitter and Instagram, and cornbreadhemp.com. We got this new CBD balm stick coming out this month in January. It's a certified organic CBD topical with arnica and peppermint. It looks like this guy. It's like this. So it's got a it's like a deodorant stick. So you can use it as a salve, but it doesn't get on your hands because you got the stick. It's got a roll-on bottom on it, so you can push it up, and it smells really minty from the peppermint and the arnica. And there's eucalyptus in here. This is amazing. So pre-orders open now at cornbreadhemp.com for this CBD balm. It's certified organic and it's from Kentucky.
Nice. Check it out. Thanks, Jim, being on the show. And you ever got anything else going on? Anything else Cornbread's doing or you're doing? You want to come on and talk about it? Let us know.
Man, it's going to be a great 21. We'll see you later.
Let's hope. All right. Thanks, man. Have a good night.
Appreciate it.